templates, no cheating. Let's see if I can do it. This one Ableton device is so underrated, it's almost criminal. It's called Corpus, and once you learn how to use it, you'll probably never leave it out of your sound design chain again. If your mixes sound flat or muddy, or you just can't get that separation, this might be the fix. Mid-side EQing and using certain stereo imaging effects are two of the most overlooked pro-level techniques of getting clarity in your mix. Here's how to use them the right way.
Before we hop into the video, quick announcement for you guys. I recently dropped a super fire, complete start to finish music production course. It's designed to give you every single tool you're ever gonna need to produce professional quality music in 30 days, either if you're totally brand new or if you've been producing for a while but you're just struggling to get your sound to the next level. It's over 17 hours of content distributed over 30 days of learning. We also have a super fire community where you can hop in and ask questions, free monthly sample packs, all kinds of cool stuff. Also, we've recently worked out a deal where if you sign up for the course, we can actually give you guys educational discounts on Ableton Live, FabFilter, Isotope, Sound Toys, Kilohertz, Arturia, and Output. So you can literally save thousands of dollars. And as of right now, the course is on sale, so it costs less than dinner. So definitely worth it, definitely worth checking out. Let's get into the video. So today we're gonna use stereo imaging and mid-side EQing to make sense of this big mess we have here. So we have like a basic kind of loop here. So it's got some potential to be a decent loop. However, the problem we have is everything is sitting on top of each other. So the first thing I would do if I was going to go mix this is make sure all of my volume levels are correct. So basically we want the loudest frequency, we want the lowest frequency to be the loudest. So what I would do is I would set my kick as a reference. And we know if we pull up an EQ8, we want this to sit right about there. So everything else we want quieter than the kick. And if the kick isn't loud enough, that's when we turn everything else down. So now let's kind of start slowly adding elements here. So we want our kick to be prominent. This is kind of like a hip hop beat. And so that means it's already as loud as it's going to get. So when we introduce things, if it's overpowering the kick, we want to turn it down. So we're off to a good start as far as the gain levels go. If we look at this on an EQ, it should give us a certain shape. A nice kind of curve down here. I'm going to open up a Pro Q because it's easier to see on a Pro Q. And we're looking for a certain shape. So we want a nice kind of curve down here, and we're seeing it's still kind of peaking right here. So we're going to see what that is and turn that down. Now we're going to get to the profound part of this tutorial, and that's going to be using stereo imaging and mid-side EQing to get a good mix on this. The problem we have is that we have all these mids up here. So I'm going to group these and just call these mid, call them instruments, whatever. They're just mid-range elements. And they're all sitting on top of each other. So what we're going to do is we're going to, before we even pan, we're going to start using some mid-side EQing to kind of carve out some of the frequencies that we don't need that might be sitting in the way of the other tracks. So I'm going to grab an EQ8. And I'm going to go left and right. So it's going to either chop out what's on the left or the right. Now it's going to be the left right here. So if you have headphones on, you can hear that we still have the signal on the right. It's just chopping out what's on the left. So the reason we're doing this is because this is going to enable us to create like a nice lush stereo image without panning, because when you're panning, what you're doing is you're actually deleting part of the signal. So you're deleting a certain side. Mid-side EQing or left and right EQing is going to allow us to preserve it and make room for another element by carving out only certain frequencies of one side. So the next one we're going to have that's going to be competing with this is the kind of vocal here. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go, mode is going to be left, right. This one, we're going to chop out the right. So again, we didn't really lose any of our sounds, and they're pretty clear of each other. So if we kind of before and after these. Now they're completely out of each other's way. Now the only other element we have to worry about in our mid group is this little kind of background sound here. So instead of mid-side EQing this one, what we're going to do is we're going to just push this out to the side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a utility for this one, and I'm going to right-click on width, and we could turn this actually into mid-side mode. So the difference between width and mid-side mode is width is going to spread something out on the stereo spectrum. Mid-side is going to chop stuff out. So it's going to push it either to the middle or the side. So these two are relatively in the middle. This one, we're going to push all the way out to the sides. Now, since we're mid-side EQing, this is a trick that's going to be really important for us, and that's cutting out the mono signal of the lows. So the reason we're doing this is because we have our kick here. And our kick, our lowest frequencies we typically want in mono or with little stereo imaging on them. Not always, but most of the time. So we have our kick and our sub here. What we want is we want the kick to take up the whole mono section of the lows. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to turn mid and side on. And for the side, we're going to chop out the lows, which shouldn't really make much of a difference because there's already not a lot of lows right here. Then we're going to go to our mids group, and we're going to do the same thing, except we're going to chop out the mid of the lows. Again, not a lot of information down here, and we're not really cutting out a lot, but when we put these together, what's happening now is we're letting our kick take up the whole mid-low section here. And while we're doing some interesting stereo imaging stuff, let's go ahead and toss a Haas effect on our hats and our snare. This is a delay trick that delays one signal like milliseconds from the other, and it creates a really wide sound, which is really cool for hi-hats. While we're at it, let's just go ahead and sidechain to our kick. So this is absolutely light years from where we started. And to kind of summarize, all we really did is we gained stage. So we made sure, in accordance to how everything should be on a volume level, we went through and adjusted everything pretty much lowest frequency, loudest, started with that as a reference. That's how I do it, at least. And then mixed in everything else so it makes sense. So our kick or our low elements are the loudest. Then we just did some left and right EQing and some mid-side stuff to kind of give everything its own space. So if everything I said is a little confusing, just remember everything has to have its own space and have room to breathe. And that's what we did here. So this is an example of how mixing can be made super easy. I hope this was helpful to you guys. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Mark.